pinnacle of human civilization before machines took over, because the human mind needs struggle and it needs problems. Otherwise, it rejects it.
Yes.
And I kind of feel like there's a whole bunch of people trying to just find problems and find struggle in their lives because they don't have enough motivation to do something that's genuinely difficult, like, you know, help people. But they can't live in this state of complete vegetation.
That's
so
right.
then they wake up and say, oh, I'm oppressed. My pronouns. How much energy must it take to go through life trying to correct every person you interact with to call you Z? Think of the calories burnt. I can't think of a bigger waste of time. Think of the calories burnt. Every Starbucks employee, it's actually Z. Correct. You are a moron, and you are just wasting so much energy. You could put that towards something beneficial. You could volunteer. You could go to the gym. There's so much more you could do with instead of walking around and talk about Z. You sound like a dumbass. But they're just finding struggle because they don't have any actual important struggle in their lives. And that's why it only exists in the decadent West.
Do you think the coming famine will change that?
Absolutely. I would argue that when the famine comes, I think all these feminists will look for a strong man of resource who is stoic, who has a good network, who's capable and important and respected. It's amazing how quickly feminism disappears. In fact, there's a podcast I did called Fresh and Fit. And I did this podcast in Miami, and I was arguing about gender roles with 7 girls. And during it, they were telling me that they can do anything a man can do, all the usual things, and they don't care, they don't need a man, all this garbage. And some crazy fan knocked on the door for me, and he had a gun. He knocked on the door. You should have seen the women, how quickly they became feminists when I had to go to that door. They all completely changed. Go. Oh, the feminism's out the window. There's no feminists on the Titanic. There's no feminisms in a famine. There's no feminists at war. Where's the feminists? Go to war, right? I remember when we did that very well-planned, very thorough evacuation of Afghanistan, and all the schools that we opened for women got shut down by the Taliban. And I was having this conversation with someone, and I was saying, okay, well, you're an Afghan man, right? You've been hired by the Afghan Defense Force, and America's now left, and you have a meager wage, and America's left, and the Taliban are coming, and you're standing outside of the school with your AK, and they're coming with whatever they've got. And you're looking at the school going, do I really want girls to go to school that bad? Not really. You just put it down and you walk off. And this girl's like, yeah, but you know, it's really important. And I'm like, yeah, it is very important. I agree. Women should have education, the right to education. Completely agree. But you're also saying here that men should die for it, which is fine. I'm not saying that shouldn't be the case, but I'm saying that you should give men the respect they deserve for dying for your education. Because it's not the women who are going to defend that female school, it's the men. So if you're going to shit on men all day long and say we ain't worth anything until a war comes, and then you want us to go die? That's interesting. When the famine comes, the closer reality gets towards baseline survival, the closer we become towards our gender roles, because it's the only way we can be competitive. If you took 10 men and 10 women and stranded them on a desert island, the men would be men and the women would be women, because if they didn't, they would die. That's the bottom line. And I think that if you look at history, since the dawn of time, men were masculine, and also men, by and large, were generally ruling the society, not in an oppressive way, but in a protective way. And I think that means that makes the society most competitive. And my argument for that is that if you name any society since the dawn of human time, men were protecting women, providing for women, and basically in charge of the society. And these are societies that never met. So it can't be an idea that spread. The Ming dynasty and the Aztecs, they're pretty far away. But that's how society was most effective. And when feminists argue with me and say, we need a society run by women, I say, well, that's never, ever happened. And if it has happened, they got destroyed so quickly, they never had a history. We can't even name one. So it's a brand new idea, which I'm not saying is a bad idea. I'm saying if it's a brand new idea, you can't tell me it's going to be better because it's never been tried, ever. So we're going to see. But what happens if it doesn't work with the most powerful nation on earth? Right? So we're feminizing men and women have more and more control and more power, which is fantastic. I'm saying this is untested. Who knows where any of this is leading? And our competitors, America's competitors, are still very firm in their gender roles. So it's certainly an interesting period of history we're about to enter. It's very interesting.
What's your view of tobacco?
I love tobacco. So my diet is particularly strange, I've been told. I live on caffeine and nicotine. So I eat once a day. I eat dinner only. 80% of my calories come from meat. I have 10 cups of coffee a day and 3 or 4 large cigars. So I like caffeine and nicotine.
I do too.
Yeah, it makes me feel good. Makes me feel like my blood's on fire a little bit. Caffeine and nicotine, I think, are fantastic.
But you're a health guy, obviously.
I'm a health guy, but smoking is fantastic for your testosterone level, and I think that's important in a man. I think that's also important in the resistance of slavery as a whole.
Is it really? You can feel it.
Oh, 100%. And I'm not saying that, smoking's healthy. I'm not saying that, because I also train exceptionally hard every single day, and when I was professionally fighting, I didn't smoke. But I think in general, testosterone level is a fantastic way to measure your overall health as a man.
But nicotine has a positive correlation to testosterone.
Absolutely, it's been proven. Yep, it's been proven repeatedly. So that's why I love nicotine so much. And then caffeine, I love to have that little bit of not jitter, but I like to feel energetic and I like to be hungry. My optimal state is hungry, but energetic. That's how I get the most done. I don't like eating. If I eat, I feel full, I feel lethargic. I like to,
Totally.
Yeah, I like to be hungry and 1% irritable from my 5th coffee and a bunch of nicotine inside of me. That's how I like to perform. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. And
it's interesting how focused the people in charge are on nicotine.
Yeah.
As fentanyl becomes really common.
Yeah.
100,000 people die a year from it.
Yeah.
Nobody notices, but they're still trying to shut down not just tobacco, but non-tobacco nicotine devices.
Yep.
Why?
That's a really good point. We could argue it's down to testosterone level. I don't know if you ever saw the study which linked people's testosterone level to their ability and capability to disagree with something. So they did a study which is pretty self-explanatory. The higher your testosterone level, the more likely you are to disagree with a point. And the reason for that is because, especially in older times, if you're going to disagree with something, you had to fight over it.
Yeah.
If you're going to say no to somebody or some tribe or some person, there's a high chance that you're going to have to fight that person. You have to defend your idea. If you don't have the propensity or the capability to defend your idea, then why would you go against the ideas of the people who are stronger than you? So reducing testosterone levels make men more compliant and more complacent because we're less likely to say no because we can't defend what we think. Why would we say you're wrong, but we can't do anything about it? We might as well just say, well, then you're right. Might makes right.
Right.
So reducing testosterone levels in men is something which I believe they're trying very hard to do. And if you read the studies, they're succeeding. Testosterone levels have gone off the edge, off the cliff. And perhaps that's why they attack smoking so heavily. I understand that smoking a lot of cigarettes can be very bad for you, but I think everything in moderation. And I think that overall, I would rather smoke a few cigars today and maintain my testosterone level, which it's good for, than not. I think the benefits outweigh the negatives.
Couldn't agree more. And my final question is about digital currency.
Yep.
Do you think it's inevitable, and what would its effects be?
CBDCs are inevitable, and they're scary. They're super scary because it's the final absolute realm of control. I mean, they're already removing cash from society. I think they say that just because they want to be able to trace things easier, and that's certainly part of it. But I also have another theory on it. I think if you have a $50 bill, and I give it to the barber for my haircut, and then he goes and buys groceries with it from the grocer, and the grocer goes and gets his car washed, the $50 goes from place to place, and after 20 or 30 transactions, the $50 bill belongs to somebody, and it's worth $50. Whereas if I pay by card, 1.5% goes to the bank. And then if he takes the money I've given him and pays for the groceries, 1.5% goes to the bank. And after the groceries have been paid for, when he goes to get his car washed, 1.5% goes to the bank. So after 20 or 30 transactions, the $50 is gone, the bank has it all. I think that's why they're so desperate to get rid of cash. It's interesting. CBDCs are the next level because once the money's completely digital, then they control everything you do with it. They control where it goes, but they can also control how and when it can be spent. Imagine some terrible future dystopian society where your money arrives and they say it can only be spent on food, or it can only be spent on vegetables because you've had too much meat this week, or you can't buy transport to a particular area because there's resistance to government oppression in that area. So your money won't work for trains right now because nobody can go down there because we don't want everyone in a large group. We want everyone at home in their pods. And they can track everywhere it goes, and they can also track how it's spent, and they can control how it's spent. They can put a time limit on it. You have an hour to spend this money. Scary. Like, think of all the ways they can inflict control over it. And I think this is actually one of the reasons why also I'm disliked. The BBC said this to me when they interviewed me. They said, Lucy, the very intelligent BBC reporter, said, word for word, you have a Bugatti and a cigar, and that means it comes with a side order of misogyny. I said, how does having a Bugatti and a cigar come with a side order of misogyny?
And you can order misogyny on the side?
Looks like it. It's like a sauce. And she repeated it because she couldn't. Yeah, you have a Bugatti and a cigar, and it comes with a side order of misogyny. So I was like, but
they're not sending their best.
Yeah, I don't think they have any best, to be honest. But the point they're making, what she doesn't realize she's making, because she's not smart enough. But what she wanted to say, but she couldn't say in a